Beijing in full bloom as the world's biggest garden landscape fair kicks off. Uganda's President Museveni calls for the lifting of sanctions against Zimbabwe. And rival forces continue their assaults on Libya's capital, Tripoli. You're watching Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up this half hour, we'll get reactions to the just concluded Belt and Road Initiative Forum. And in sports, Eliud Kipchoge sets a new London Marathon record as compatriot Brigid Kosgei claims the women's gold. We start the program in Beijing, where the International Horticultural Exhibition has kicked off. Over the next 6 months, tourists will be able to enjoy the world's largest garden landscape fair at the foot of the Great Wall of China. Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered a speech during the opening ceremony, sharing his views on protecting the environment. Here's more on that.
Expo 2019 Beijing is held on the theme of Live Green, Live Better. It hosts 110 countries and international organizations. Addressing the opening ceremony, leaders of international organizations hailed China's efforts for raising awareness about the environment and supporting ecological development.
With a great diversity of gardens and numerous cultural activities, Expo 2019 Beijing, China will, for the next 6 months, inspire and educate visitors on the critical significance of plants to enhance its quality of life and ensure the future of the next generations.
China has led the way in promoting green development. It's clear that the Chinese government supports ecologically sensitive development in order to create a beautiful China. I'm confident that the legacy of this expo will be greener lives for generations to come.
Chinese President Xi Jinping also delivered a speech and proposed an initiative on promoting green development. He called for the pursuit of harmony between man and nature.
The overall balance of the Earth's ecology should be maintained, so that the starry sky, lush mountains, and floral fragrance will be retained for future generations to enjoy along with material prosperity.
The Chinese president proposed pursuing prosperity based on green development and called for developing a passion for nature-caring lifestyles. He also called for fostering a scientific spirit in ecological governance and joint efforts to tackle environmental challenges.
Only with concerted efforts can we effectively deal with global environmental issues such as climate change, marine pollution, and biological protection, and achieve the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals.
世界园艺博览会开幕。
President Xi joined nearly 1,000 representatives from various countries in the opening ceremony of Expo 2019 Beijing. Wang Yuan, CGTN.
Well, staying in Beijing, let's take a look back at the just concluded Belt and Road Forum. This year's event involved high-level discussions among about 40 world leaders, and the topics that were covered included development, multilateralism, globalization, and the emergence of regional schemes that can work in conjunction with the Belt and Road Initiative. Now, experts in Zimbabwe have welcomed this, saying the continent can benefit from development opportunities brought forth by the initiative.
I think President Xi's speech at the second Belt and Road Forum was very relevant to the rest of the world, and particularly to Africa. He spoke of innovation. We're talking about innovation a lot. He spoke of green investment. We're concerned about the environment here. He spoke of transparency and combating corruption. Those are issues we're dealing with in Africa. He spoke of free trade. 26 countries in Africa have a free trade area, which is just starting, but it will be very important to work with China on that. It will work only with good and appropriate infrastructure, and China has already begun helping African countries with infrastructure.
Meanwhile, Patrick Obambi, Vice President of the Sino-Congolese Bank for Africa, says the forum provides an opportunity for all countries to exchange experiences in economic development.
L'objectif, on va dire,
the long-term objective of the bank strategy is to set up one branch in Cameroon, the Central African Republic, and then the other branch in West Africa and one in Southern Africa, so that they can easily enter the connection. It is not necessary for the companies in those countries to go to China, but could be connected with China to realize the cooperation.
Let's turn to Libya now. Airstrikes hit the Libyan capital late on Saturday. Eastern forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar have been trying to take Tripoli from the internationally backed government of Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj. Now, since the offensive began in early April, Tripoli has been targeted by several airstrikes believed to have originated from unmanned aircraft. Haftar's forces have confirmed for the first time that they've dispatched a warship to an oil port. The Government of National Accord says its troops are preparing to launch a counter-offensive along the capital's southern outskirts. This is the most intense face-off between the rival governments since the North African country plunged into turmoil 8 years ago. In Nigeria, police say they're doing everything they can to rescue 2 senior employees of oil giant Shell who were kidnapped in the city of Rivers State in southern Nigeria. The 2 foreign oil workers were abducted on Thursday as they were returning from a field trip. Their police escorts were killed in the ambush. CGTN's Deji Badmus has more.
The attack actually happened on Thursday along a major highway linking the 2 oil-rich states of Rivers and Bayelsa. The oil workers were said to have been escorted by police in a pickup truck, but the gunmen reportedly ambushed the convoy by opening fire at the police guards to stop the vehicles. 2 policemen were killed while the gunmen dragged out the workers from their vehicle and took them away. Shell has confirmed the kidnapping but has not released the details of the nationality of the 2 employees. Now, the police in Rivers State says it is doing everything to rescue the workers. No one knows the motive for the attack, but kidnapping for ransom is rampant in the area and oil workers are often targeted. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
The organizers of the protests in Sudan say talks on forming a transitional government have been transparent and fruitful. Both sides announced they would set up a joint committee to tackle political disputes. Saturday's meeting came after protesters agreed on Wednesday to resume talks with the military after a temporary break. The military also announced the resignation of 3 members of the council whom the opposition had accused of being too close to former President al-Bashir. The Sudanese Professionals Association wants a sovereign council which will include limited army representation to hand over full powers to civilians during a 4-year transitional period.
The meeting happened in a very positive spirit, and we agreed we are going to speed things up in the negotiations and work hard for it to happen as soon as possible. We have not decided on a time frame yet, but we are working to speed things up. When it comes to the Presidential Council, both sides presented their views on this, and the negotiations will continue tonight to start on this.
Let's turn to news on Zimbabwe now. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has added his voice to calls for the removal of sanctions on Zimbabwe. He's also urging African states to work together to counter hostile policies by the West. Museveni was on a 2-day visit to the southern African nation. CGTN's Farah Mukutuya has more.
President Yoweri Museveni is the latest African leader to condemn the punitive embargoes imposed by the US, which have stifled Zimbabwe's economic recovery and which are blamed for adversely impacting ordinary citizens.
So why do you put sanctions? If somebody is wrong, leave him. He will fail by his own mistakes. Why do you have to put sanctions? If you know you are right, and somebody is wrong. However, it is also the fault of Africa, because we don't work together very closely. Because if we are working closely, if somebody puts sanctions on one of us, we will put counter sanctions on him, on the other one also.
Museveni was speaking while officially opening the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair in the country's second city, Bulawayo. He and Zimbabwean counterpart Emmerson Mnangagwa agreed to scale up trade and economic relations between their two nations.
You have got all the rare minerals which are very important, especially for military industries. I would want us to work together so that we develop this big potential of Zimbabwe.
Since the resignation of former President Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe has sought to attract foreign investment and step up ties with regional nations as it desperately seeks to revive an economy emerging from 2 decades in the doldrums. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Bulawayo, Zimbabwe.
Let's take a short break. Here's what's still ahead on the program. Kenya becomes the second African country to launch a human milk bank. We tell you what it means and why it matters.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself. If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice. Africa Live. Find your voice.
The UK government has launched a $13 million project to discourage Nigerian women from travelling abroad in search of a better future. The project, Stamping Out Slavery in Nigeria, will focus on the success stories of women in the country through awareness campaigns in schools, churches and markets. CGTN's Kelechi Mekalam takes a look at the story of a former human trafficking victim and how she rebuilt her life.
May is a victim of human trafficking. Her full identity is being concealed for fear of reprisal by her traffickers. At 15 and out of secondary school, she was lured into traveling abroad with a promise of a better life. But her hopes quickly dashed. She was trafficked to Saudi Arabia and sold into slavery. For months, she was subjected to hard labor and long hours without pay. May claims she was frequently battered by her masters.
There's one thing that used to tight on their head. Those people like that, he removed that thing, it's like iron. He hit me, that thing that he tied in his head, kicked me like ball. He beats me that today that, Shebi, I don't want to work. I want to waste the money that he paid on me. That I will not waste his money like that.
May was sent back after her health deteriorated. She's now taking hairstyling lessons in this salon in the capital, Abuja. May considers her failed attempt to seek better life abroad a mistake.
I came back to Nigeria for a purpose, because if it's not for a purpose, I might have been dead by now. But I came back because I still have many destiny and many purpose to fulfill. That is why I'm back.
According to the Global Slavery Index, there are about 40.3 million victims of slavery worldwide. 71% of them are females. Nigeria ranks 32nd out of 167 countries with the highest number of slaves. The UK government believes an aggressive campaign to discourage Nigerian women from embarking on risky journeys to find better life abroad could significantly cut the number of women falling victims to human trafficking. Kelechi Mekalam, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
And here in Kenya, the country recently became the second African nation to launch a human milk bank. The project aims to provide donated breast milk to babies without access to their mother's milk. It's hoped the initiative will also help to reduce neonatal deaths in the country, which currently stand at around 22 per 1,000 births. This, of course, according to UNICEF.
Patricia is a first-time mother. Like any new mother, she was looking forward to breastfeeding her baby. But this was not possible. Patricia is now one of the beneficiaries of the Human Milk Bank at the Pumwani Maternity Hospital in Kenya's capital, Nairobi.
Sikuwa napata maziwa for the past 3 days.
I wasn't able to breastfeed my baby. 3 days after giving milk boosts the baby's immunity and lays a foundation for good health.
The project is the first of its kind in the country. The Human Milk Bank can help reduce child mortality in the country. Nairobi leads with 38 deaths per every 1,000 live births.
Apparently, the ones who are receiving the donor human milk are only those cases that are in need, not every baby that is receiving. Either the mother is not able to lactate, either the mother is very sick and she's not able to breastfeed her baby, either the baby has been abandoned and they are not able to feed.
Human milk stimulates the development of the infant immune system while providing protection from pathogens. It also serves as the best source of nutrition during the first 6 months of a baby's life. The World Health Organization recommends donated milk as a life-saving alternative. But how safe is the milk?
Before the donor mothers are given a go-ahead to come and express the milk, they are done a screening of 4 tests using a ELISA test, which is HIV, hepatitis B and C, and VDRL, which is basically syphilis. And once they donate the milk, before pasteurization, we get a sample of the test of the milk. We take it again to the laboratory for culture and sensitivity just to see is there any bacteria, any microorganism that would have grown in the milk. Once it is a pass, that is the moment now we go ahead to pasteurize the milk. And once we pasteurize the milk again, we take it again to the laboratory for culture and sensitivity. Once it is also a pass, there is no growth of any bacteria, any microorganism, that's when now the milk is safe to be dispensed from the human milk banking to be used in other departments.
Since the project started a few weeks ago, there have been more than 10 voluntary donors and over 6 babies benefiting. Most of the recruited donors are mothers who have given birth to preterm babies. Some babies lack the energy to suckle, leaving the mothers with a lot of milk.
I decided to donate my breast milk to help babies who are sick, orphaned, or whose mothers cannot produce milk. I feel all hospitals should introduce such initiatives to help mothers in need.
There are more than 500 human milk banks in 37 countries across the globe. Brazil, which tops the list with around 220 banks, has reduced infant mortality by more than 50% since introducing the program. With plans to scale up, Kenya stands a good chance of saving on the high cost of treating newborns for illness or conditions that may develop in the absence of access to their mother's milk. Chamhono, Nairobi, Kenya.
Tuni Robots is Tunisia's top robotics event that takes place every year at the prestigious INSAT University in the country's capital. It attracts hundreds of engineers and students from around the country, and competitions are held between universities where engineering students showcase their skills in making intelligent and autonomous robots.
Tuni Robots 2019 is the most successful Tunisian event in the robotics field. This year, engineering students have designed many tracks and challenges for the exhibitors. Over 100 women engineers took part in the tournaments.
This is the 10th edition of Tuni Robots. In 2009, we had less than 100 participants. Now over 800 people are taking part in the event. They have come from many regions to show their talent and exhibit their robots.
Participants have applied their engineering knowledge to solve real-world problems in different economic sectors. Some robots took up to 1 year, from design to development.
This is my 3rd participation. My team has made a drone for agricultural use. The red weevil has devastated and killed palm trees. Our robot can neutralize this dangerous insect and save tens of thousands of palm trees.
Tuni Robots Junior is a national competition for children aged from 7 to 17. It is divided into 3 sections: the junior tournament, the robotics exhibition, and the challenge. The children were trained at schools by engineering students from the prestigious INSAT University.
We designed a robot for SpongeBob.
It operates even under pressure. We've created an automatic burger vending machine which selects, prepares, then delivers food. Robotics is our passion.
The two winning teams have qualified to the All Japan Sumo Tournament. Children will design a new robot and apply engineering knowledge to robotic sumo wrestling.
Tuni Robots has become a tradition and an annual technological exhibition which gathers Tunisia's most talented engineers, students and researchers. The Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research has approved the organization of similar events in dozens of universities to promote science and robotics across the country. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Up next, your sports news. Coming up, Eliud Kipchoge sets a new London Marathon record as compatriots Bridget Koskei claims the women's gold.